Alright, we're gonna try something a little different today. Standing up. No, this video might get a little emotional. First of all, you can see the now powered on, excellently powered on, beautiful electronic load project in its glory. But, generally try to keep things pretty civil here, but every now and again, you know, we get a little excited, we get a little passionate, or what give you. Oh my god, that's intro. Okay, this video might get a little emotional, might get a little riled up today, might do something a little different. See, I try to keep things pretty civil in the lab when we're talking, but I need to tell you a little story about 2 weeks of my life that I am never getting back. I need to tell you a little story about the SPI debug that happened when bringing up this new prototype. And basically those 2 weeks of my life can be boiled down into one sentence. At a 100 ohm series resistor. So, let's talk about that. I'm not gonna lie, we had some pretty frustrating glitches while bringing up the Proto 2 electronic loads. There were ultimately a few root causes, and we're gonna walk through those today, but here's where our journey starts. We had a working electronic load. This is what we had, and we actually wrote the code, so when you scale from this to this, it's running the same code. Like, all the logic is the same, it just builds 4 electronic load objects instead of 1, but that shouldn't change the function of the program. That's the point of object-oriented programming, or OOP. Like, well, I guess most software engineers would just call that programming. It's been this that, but it's basically the same thing. So I ask you, why didn't it work when we built our beautiful electronic load? What went wrong? Why didn't it work? Yeah, so basically, when we put the same code that was running on this on the new electronic load, what we saw is instead of working, it actually wouldn't set the correct set point, and the set point would bounce around. So you keep sending it 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, and it's like 100, 200, 1,000, 0, 20. It is all over the place. The current set point just does not align to what you send. That's not great. That's actually really not great. Wasn't even consistent. Yeah. By the way, check out the links in the description of the video. You'll find a couple schematics that we developed for this new phase of the project down there, and you'll also find some links to the Teensy 4.1 microcontroller. We switched from the Teensy 4.0 to the Teensy 4.1, which isn't really a huge change because they're in the same family. They might actually be the same part or just a different package, but yeah, so if you're following along in the schematic, this might make a little more sense. So definitely check that out. So at this point, we're about 50% sure that the problem isn't software because we've tested this software extensively before and it worked. And this should be the same software, but that hasn't stopped bugs from showing up before. I've seen printfs being commented out suddenly causing bugs. So yeah, I'm not going to get too worried about that. Yeah. Yes, we're pretty sure it's not the software. Yeah, but it's still not working, so yep. One thing that I did check was the heap size, because if you start running into heap size issues, things can go weird. Heap is the amount of memory allocated for static variables, so we're using malloc and clear end. I don't know, we never actually end up calling that because we initialized this once, but basically we use malloc to allocate the memory, and so if you run out of heap space, it gets weird. I think if what I found on the internet is correct, usually the Teensys crash. Sometimes it kind of limps along with invalid pointers and it's really nasty. But this is pretty straightforward. It just crashes when it doesn't work. So I guess with all of that said, let's start blazing through the issues that I've been stumbling through for the last 2 weeks. The first one was bus contention on MISO. So there's a few steps to this. I wasn't expecting to have any bus contention issues because, well, we have a bunch of SPI devices, 3 of them, 1 sink and 2 sources of data, so 2 devices already sharing the MISO line in this design. And when we implemented that in the motherboard of the Proto 2 electronic load, basically what we found is now there was bus contention. And the problem wasn't with the shared bus that had already been there, but what we didn't think about was the fact that now we have 2 buffers. So on each high voltage region, there was no bus contention, but now we're basically storing the MISO line and forwarding it twice, and if one of them was high and one of them was low, that was no bueno. So what we did to work around that is on the motherboard, we added a diode to basically make that signal open collector. So a pull-up near the micro, and then diodes pointed towards the meso line. So if it pulled it low, it would pull it low, but if it was high, it just wouldn't touch the bus. And then we added a pull-up on the daughter cards to make it so that we're normally forwarding a logic level 1 or a high when the bus is idle. So that was kind of a mess. That was the thing that required the most components. But we're not quite done. We're not quite done. That was issue the first. So at this point, some of the daughter cards were working, but not all of them and not consistently. So that was kind of a problem. And the next thing that we faced was an incorrect pinout of the Teensy 4.1. So the KiCad footprints, we just pulled these off the internet. Didn't really pay much mind because I've had great luck with pulling community footprints and symbols before. But meso's on the wrong pin. It's off by 1. So if you look at what the manufacturer provides and what's in the footprint, or in the symbol, sorry, in the schematic symbol, it's not right. They're flopped. So that wasn't great. So we had to cut a trace and jump a wire over to kind of crisscross the signals to get it in the right spot. But we're still not done. So at this point, we know that the meso line's connected correctly. We know that we don't have bus contention. We've solved a lot of big important problems. But now we see our SPI peripheral is clocking out crazy data. Like, you see the capture for what was happening with the old prototype with the Teensy 4. And now you see what's happening with the new prototype in the Teensy 4.1. And it's like, we could do things in the code, like add delays and stuff, and it would go from sending 1 byte of data when you tell it to send 2, to sending like 32 bytes worth of clock. And you're just like, I'm sorry, what? And turns out these micros have a bit of an issue. If you have some reflections on the clock line, it can freak out your SPI peripheral and make it go a little nuts. So that's actually what was happening. We had to add a 100 ohm resistor near the micro so that the reflections on that clock line that we were seeing wouldn't cause glitches within the SPI peripheral. It actually made it like clock through data faster than it thought it was. It's weird. So now we got valid control, but still no data from the lower 2 ADCs. The ADCs connected to SPI 1 instead of SPI 0. And turns out the default meso assignment conflicts with the default UART. It actually conflicts with pin 1. So yeah, we had to swap that. And then, whoa! Okay! We've got 2 weeks burned, a couple hairs lost, and a little bit of my sanity gone, but SPI works. All 4 daughter cards have working SPI, so we can now actually control the thing. So that's fantastic. That means that it's time to finish assembling the chassis that you see here. So once we finished all that debug, we plopped the water cooling in, got the thing hooked up. It's actually installed in the case. It looks pretty sweet, if I do say so myself, but I'll admit I'm a little biased. Got your I/O on the back and your cooling in the middle, and man, this thing's pretty. So yeah, I guess that means it's time to start testing this. But before we do that, I just want to speak a little bit about what we just experienced today. I want to talk a little bit about what this was, and it's really integration and modularity. Those are, in my opinion, some often overlooked complexities of a system that simply cannot be ignored when you're making a plan, right? So this system, without modularity, this one-up where you have your micro and your controller and your USB and everything, your heatsink, it's all integrated. And now you take that and you distribute it and you add 4 of these analog front ends and you share 1 micro. And then you've got your UI up on this separate daughter card on top. And now you've got all this distributed complexity, and integrating those pieces is complex because you would think if you can build 1, you can build 4 and stitch them together. And sure, we did. We got there. It works. But it took a little bit of fighting. And now when I think about this, when I reflect on this mistake, here's the big question I have to ask myself. Could we have prevented this issue, right? If we would have been a little more careful, if we would have spent more time reviewing the schematic and the layout before we built it, would we have saved more time than the 2 weeks we spent debugging this? And that's where it's hard to come up with an answer, right? So if I could look you square in the face and say, well, if I could look you square through the internet and tell you that we would have found every single issue if I would have sat down and reviewed the schematic for 2 months, I still might have missed one. We still might have needed to spend a week debugging. Might have taken the same amount of time. We might have made other issues through all the mitigations we were adding from the review. I've seen it go both ways. So I guess you don't know until you know, and well, now we know how this way went, and we'd never really be able to go the other way blind. So I guess we're at a place where I know everything that I would fix if we did another spin of these boards, and this was like the most intense review you'll ever do. Just thoughts, right? You know, we had something that worked, we made something else that we thought would work, and we ran into a couple small issues. It's not unusual, it's not neglect, it's not negligence, it's just kind of engineering. It's just kind of how it goes sometimes. A couple tacked on components, cut traces, dangling wires, and the system's up and running, and that's what I'm thankful for. I'm just thankful that we didn't need to spin the boards to make this thing work. Bringing up an electronic prototype without even one part value change, like, we got really lucky with this board. It just worked, and I was floored. This is more what I was expecting. A couple bond wires, a couple little mistakes. It's a complex system. These things happen. So I'm really happy where we ended up at the end of this video. I'm really happy with what we accomplished, and I hope that you are too. If you like this video and you can't wait to see us stretch the legs of this electronic load, make sure to let me know by getting subscribed, hitting that like button, and checking out the links down below. Coming up soon, we'll be doing some thermal tests, and I can't wait. So if you want to support the channel, consider checking out our Patreon page. A link in the description. It really helps us out a lot. Thank you. Yes, thank you to everyone who's decided to become a Patreon member. It really helps to keep this all possible. Most of all, I hope that you learned something great today, and I hope to see you again soon. So thanks for watching EE for everyone, and thank you for staying till the end. Bye!